Hi, everybody. Welcome to Why NFT Education is Taking Off. My name is Wendy Bolívar, and that's also my Twitter handle. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm from Venezuela in South America. I currently live in Mexico City, though, and I've been traveling the world for the last couple of decades. I've also devoted my professional career to marketing, especially to creating experiences that can help drive conversion, engagement, and loyalty. And I've been acting in this Web3 world for about a year. I started at the beginning of 2022. And I'm particularly devoted to enabling women and artists from Latin America to enter the Web3 world. So I'm gonna focus my presentation a little bit about Latin America, not only because that's where I'm from, but I think it's also important that in these type of stages, you guys get the opportunity to see what it actually is happening in other countries and regions. So when we talk about why NFT education is growing, I identify three main factors. First and foremost, basically money. Second, the pandemic. And third, communities. So I'm gonna break those down a little bit. First, money, or business trends, investment trends, and so forth. So many of the countries in Latin America today actually have their own cryptocurrencies, and we could think that just because of that, then obviously everyone had to actually learn about cryptocurrencies. And that is true, but the reality behind all of that is that the inflation and just the lack of stability of local currencies in Latin America is always an issue. Some of the countries like Argentina suffer from double-digit inflation that rises every single day. And so a lot of the people have to actually just figure out a way to make sure that the money that they earn today it still has its same value out in the marketplace tomorrow. And that's one of the reasons why even some governments are just gifting people portions of Bitcoin, because then people can actually find a way to kind of trade it and then get their money's worth for their day-to-day expenses. The other piece is people are looking for alternate ways to just find new income sources. And that's where, for instance, online gaming has become certainly super big in many countries like Venezuela, precisely because people are playing to earn, and then with that, they are finding that in extra income that they can trade for US dollars, for instance, and then eventually into their local currencies, but it's an additional income for them. Or even NFTs. NFTs is another way that has become another source of income for people, whether they are in some sort of crafts and arts or consumer goods. They've just used NFTs as another resource to actually earn money, and whether it is for their own, covering their own expenses, or just actually helping the local communities. Now, you would say, well, but that's not new. Certainly, it's not new. It's always been the situation in Latin America, the struggle to actually make a living. But I would say, and that's where the second piece comes to it, which is the pandemic, that was the pivoting moment. During the pandemic, many people lost their jobs. Others actually found themselves seeing that they got a reduction in the number of hours that they could work. And so as everywhere in the world, it took us back not only to our own places, but also kind of inwards. And that's the moment that they realized that, yes, they did have to find an alternate way to create an income, but that alternate way had to also be digital, because nobody could leave their homes. And so that's the moment where people actually decided to jump on the bandwagon, get into the rabbit hole and learn about this. Now, the problem was, okay, we want to learn and we want to do and we want to create new sources of income through Web3 technology, but how do we do it? And here comes the same old biases and challenges that our communities have struggled with for centuries. The information was not in a language that many people could actually understand. And even if it was, sometimes it was so technical that people couldn't actually apply that to their reality, to their day-to-day. So then, as Latin Americans, as we are, what do? We turn to our friends. We turn to the community. And the community in Web3 is a different type of community. We've been talking about it all along during these past 3 days. The community in Web3 is all about sharing. It's all about collaborating. It's all about co-creation. And that's where, again, just kind of NFT education took off in Latin America, because then it was through the word of mouth, through the Twitter spaces, through the meetups, through the digital events, then fast forward past the pandemic, actual in real life events. But it was through that connection with the community that people actually got to learn and understand about cryptocurrencies, about trading, about blockchain, about NFTs, and all of that. So I want to actually give a quick shout out to some of the organizations that are here on the board, because this is what I call the agents of change in Latin America. These are the people who are taking care of actually bringing in, there's an actual mission of bringing in at least 5 million Latin Americans into Web3 during this year. So hopefully you can just kind of look through them and support them. These are the people that are helping kind of bridge that gap of language, but also of applicability, of how do we translate that information from that very technical jargon to what it is that we are and that we can do today, and understanding the similarities and difference from what my current occupation is to what these new tools and resources can actually do for me. So you would say, okay, so yeah, NFT education is growing. NFT education will continue to grow, and it will continue to grow because we still have a big gap to close. We still have to close the gap. We heard it from Jody and from other people throughout these 3 days. This is the year to bring in the audiences. So we have to close the gap of language. And again, I'm not only speaking about language as in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and so on. I'm speaking about making the information understandable, relatable, and applicable to what people do day in and day out. We still have to close the gap of the actual kind of education that we get. Not everybody has access, especially in our remote communities, not everybody has access to a smartphone and a Wi-Fi connection every single day. So how do we bring this type of education to those people? We've done this before. Again, we know this technological era, it has so many things that we've seen in the past. So how do we leverage on that learning to kind of bring that forward? And we have to close the gap of misrepresentation and stereotypes and lack of diversity. And so in an effort to do that, I actually want to bring your attention to one of the initiatives that you can support. It's an NFT collection called the Faces of Latam. It's minted already and available in OpenSea, and you can learn more at thefacesoflatam.com. What we try to do here, this is a group of artists from all across Latin America that I enabled them to actually create their very first NFT piece. But also what we wanted to make sure we did was bridge that gap of the misrepresentation, showcase what we actually look like today, and feed AI systems with that. So hopefully you can support us in this mission. Again, I want to thank you for your attention today. My Twitter handle is Wendy Bolívar, and I hope you enjoy the rest of NFT New York.